Yo, what's up, family? Happy Thursday, man. We're gonna jump right into this thing. You see, we're doing stem and leaf plots today, and there's also gonna be like some review. Well, yeah, I guess you'll just see towards the end. You know, you're gonna have a lot of those questions coming up over the next couple of weeks. Just refreshing our memory on things we learned already. So pretty much, man, we're at the end of it. Yeah, let's go ahead and dive right into this thing. So we're talking about stem and leaf plots today. Stem and leaf plots. And so as you can see from this example, it's kind of hard to see a little bit, but on your screen, it's just another way to, depict data. And so it's the stem, which is the numbers on the left, and then the leaf would be like the tens, hundreds, thousands, what have you. So the stem is like the first digit, and the leaf is the second and third digits, and so on. So in this example, this first stem would be the first stem will be 1, and then the leaf would be 1, and put those together and you get 11. So you have 11, 12, 15, 17, and then 20, 21, 23, 24, 28, and so on. Okay, so we're going to use this next picture that you see here. And so this stem that means it's going to be 130. So the whole number would be 136. The stem is 13, the leaf is 6, so the whole digit is 136. And so in our previous learning, we talked about mean, median, mode, and range, and you could find the same thing with stem and leaf plot data with mean, median, mode, and range. Okay. So this first question says, what is the range of this data? So remember the range. Hopefully you guys remember that the range is taking the biggest number. So that's going to be 22.8. So 228. And then you're going to subtract it with this number, 13 and 6, which is 136. So 228 minus 136. And when you do the math, right, the one that makes the most sense is obviously, right, letter C. Okay? So when you think about that, remember the range is the difference subtracting the biggest and the smallest number together. Okay? So number 1 is C. Number 2, right, it requires us to count, but if you put them in order from least to greatest, like you're supposed to, you always want to even if it's in a stem and leaf plot, right, it's already here in order from least to greatest. So technically all you have to do is count, right? You can just count how many numbers there are, right? And that'll tell you how many data points there are, right? So when we count, it says how many data points are in this data set, or whatever that question says, something really similar to that. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So there are 22 data points in this stem and leaf. 19 doesn't have anything. If it had a 0 here as a leaf, right, then that means that data is included. But since there isn't any number in this data next to 19, is obsolete. You don't need it. But in a stem and leaf plot, you go in the order of the numbers. And so even though that wasn't there, you don't include it. So for number 2, right, that is 22, so that is letter C. That is letter C. All right. And this one says, what is the mean? Number 3 says, what is the mean of this data? Remember, mean is the average. Mean is the average. So you have to put them all in order from least to greatest, and then you add them up, and then you divide it by the total number in the data set, right? So when we add them all up, hopefully you guys are doing that. I'm not going to tell you what it is, right? But we know that there's 22 data pieces. So you're going to take whatever that component is and add them up and divide it by 22, and you should get one of these digits, A, B, C, or D. And so after you do that, you should get what resembles letter C. okay, you should get letter C. So you have to add them all up and then divide it by 22. Okay? All right, that's how you find the mean, the average. Okay? Number 4, it simply says, what is the mode? Remember, mode means the most. What data set occurs the most often, right? What number do we see the most? And so if we just went back up to look at that stem and leaf plot here, right, we could clearly see that the one that occurs the most is 141. 141 occurs the most because there's 2 of those. Okay, remember the mode can be bimodal, trimodal, or no mode at all, right? But in this case, it is 141, and that looks like that is letter D. Letter D. All right, number 5. What is the median, right? So if you already went through and labeled them and wrote them out from least to greatest, right, you could see that that there were 2 numbers that were left for the median. Okay, so I'm going to show you a way to do the median with using a stem and leaf plot. All right, so let's go back up to here. And so what we would do is, if we're asked to find the median, you can check off from end to end. So we'll just cross out this 6, cross out that 8, cross out this 1, cross out the 6, cross out this 1, cross out the 2, cross out this 4, cross out the 0, cross out the 6, cross out this 8, cross out the 3, cross out this 1, cross out the 8 with the 8, cross out the 5 with the 5, cross out the 8 with the 7, cross out the 6 with the 6, cross out the 0 with the 3, and the one that is left is 172. All right, did we do that right? You know what, shoot, I was trying not to have to write this out. Okay, so you check off from end to end. Let's do that again. But if you got something different, just say, hey, Mr. B, I got something different. Move on, okay? But I want to make sure I'm doing this right, because when you do a stem and leaf plot, you can check off from end to end to determine what was, all right, so 6 with the 8. And then we move here, 6 with the 6, 4 with the 2, 1 with the 0, 1 with the 8, 8 with the 1, 3 with the 5. All right, so now we're left with these right here in the middle. So we're going to do the 7 with the 8, 6 with the 5, 0 with the 6. See, yeah, that's right. So now we're left with 172 and 173 in the middle. So now you know that 172, 173 is in the middle. And that means you have to add those 2 numbers up and then divide it by 2. Add those 2 numbers up and then divide it by 2. And then for that question, what is the median? And we know that when we add those 2 numbers up and divide it by 2, we should get B. We should get B. So number 5 is B. Okay? All right. Number 6. So this question says, number 6, how many data points are greater than 190? How many data points are greater than 190? So when we look at this data again, right? When we look at it, we're just looking at 190, and so how many data points are greater? Was that what it said? I'm sorry, guys. Mr. B is tired. Greater than 190. All right, so now we're just counting these numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? And so we see that greater than 190, there are 7 numbers that are greater than 190. And that's answer choice B. Number 7 says, how many data points are less than 151? Less than 151. So if we go back up here and look at this data, less than 151, we're just going to count these because 153, and then we go to 146. So we're going to count 146. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's 5 numbers that are less than 151. All right. So 151, it looks like that's going to be answer choice C for number 7. Answer choice C. All right. And so that is it for the stem and leaf plot. Pretty simple, pretty cut and dry. You have to remember when you're interpreting data, you just have to know what type of data it is and what it's asking you. Oops. Tomorrow we're going to kind of do a review of our learning this week. I am thinking about what that video is going to look like because I want to make sure that you understand, but I want to make sure that you can do it on your own as well. All right, here we go. So we're going to look at these kind of review, kind of tests, state test questions kind of things. Like I promised that you guys, my phone just won't stay still, that we will be looking at. And so we're going to dive right into those. So it says use the next 3 questions. These next 3 questions will, and the bonus question will be like state test type questions. Please answer all of them. Use the image to answer the questions. Use this image to answer question number 10, but that should not be number 10. I don't even know why it's number 10. It should be number 8. All right, well, easy fix. That's a good thing about Google. You could just change it in the moment. There you go, right there. All right, so we're gonna look at this. Remember how we read this? Like this is the x-axis, this is the y, x, y, and so on, right? And so we're just gonna plot these points. So we're gonna walk over, right? This is the x-axis along this way. So we're gonna go over to -5, and then we're gonna go up. That's right, we're gonna go up to 5. So that's our first point. So it looks like the first point is the same in all of the answers, right? So we can't do, a process of elimination just yet because it is the same in every one, right? So there's not one that's different. So we have to find the next point. So the next point is from that point, right? We're going to go 2 over and then up 4. 2 over and then up 4. So if we look at that, that's where the second point is, right there where my cursor is. So that looks like we can eliminate C and D. We can eliminate C and D because they don't have that point there. So we can eliminate that, right? So I'm also giving you like a kind of test taking skill, right? Process of elimination. So we can eliminate C and D. Now we're just focusing on A and B. Okay? So we know it looks like A has that point and then B has that point. So now we have to look at the next one. 6. So we're going to go over 6, and then down 2. Over 6 and then down 2. Okay? So it looks like B has that as well. Over 6 and then down 2. So they are the same for the first 3 or the first 3 coordinates. So now we have to look at the last one. -3. So we're going to go over -3 and then down to -6. And then if we look at letter B, we're going to go over -3. Well, they actually went over -6 and then down -2. So we can eliminate B. So we kind of had to do all of them to see. So we deduced that it is letter A, right? So that one is letter A, all right? So for number 8, it's letter A. And this is not correct here, so that should be, use this picture for question number 9. Yeah, I had way more questions than I imagined, then I had to delete some. All right, so you guys remember how to do this, right? Like this is something really cool. So we know that 3 squared is, hopefully you guys said 9, times, and then 2 to the 3rd power is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8, plus 4 is 12. So we do the parentheses first. All right, I'm just going to write it down. Okay. So we have 3 squared times 2 to the third plus 4 over, oh, that's pretty, 2 to the second power. Okay, so we know that this first part is 9, right? Times, and then right here is going to be 8 plus 4. And then over here is going to be 2 to the second power is 4. Okay? So this turned into that. All right? And now we do the parentheses, and that's going to be 12 times 9 over 4. Now, here's the beautiful thing, right, about multiplication and division, right? Because 4 can fit into 12. You don't have to times 9 by 12 because you're still going to get the same thing, right? So you could just say 4 fits into itself once, into 12 3 times, and then you multiply 9 times 3, and that's going to be 27. If you did 9 times 12 gave you 108 divided by 4, you still get 27. Okay? So that answer choice is D, right? For number 9. All right. Pretty simple. All right. I know you guys remember these types of questions, right? Hopefully. So it says, Mr. Tola has a piece of wood that is 8 1/4 feet in length. He wants to cut it into pieces that are each 3/4 foot in length. How many 3/4 foot pieces of wood can Mr. Tola make? Right? So we know that that is a division problem because it wants to know how many 3/4 can fit into 8 1/4. Now, we went over this so many times in class. You should hear my voice. Well, you kind of do hear my voice, but you should hear my voice in your head telling you, remember exactly how many of this fit into that, right? So that should remind you of how to write it, right? So we have how many of this, right? So how many of this fits into that? So we're going to write it the way we see it. 3/4 divided by 8 1/4. So how many of this can fit into that? How many 3/4 are in 8 1/4, right? And then you should also remember, hear my voice saying, we have to first convert it. Very good. We have to convert this, and that's going to be 8 times 4 is 32 plus 1 is 33/4. And then we do keep, change, reciprocate, or flip, right? Oh, I miss you guys. It just reminds me of the classroom, right? And then, now what do? What is my favorite thing to do? Hopefully you guys are saying simplify, right? So we cross cancel. Cross cancel, that's going to be 3 into itself once, into 33, 11 times. And do we see 11? Yes, we do. That is letter D. And we are done. So number 10 is letter D. All right, here's our bonus question. It's worth a lot of points. And the only reason why it's worth a lot of points is because I don't like having uneven number of points. You see that right there? Right? So I wanted to have a good number of points there. So that's why it's worth that much. So let's see here. The question says, Carly purchased 9.5 pints of ice cream for a party. That's a lot of ice cream. If each guest will be served exactly 3/5 pint of ice cream, what is the greatest number of guests that Carly can serve? So we have to key in on this part right here. What is the greatest number of guests, right? The greatest number of guests that Carly can serve equally, right, is going to come into play. So let's go ahead and write this out. So we have 9 1/2, right? Because how many 3/5 are in? How many 3/5 are in? How many 3/5 are in 9 1/2? So just like we did with this problem, we're going to do the same thing. We have 9 times 2 is 18 plus 1 is 19 halves. 19 halves, right? 19 halves times, right? Because we change our sign, and then we reciprocate or flip, right? Oh, poop. We can't easily cross cancel. So then that means we have to multiply straight across, right? So we're going to multiply straight across, right? And then we know that 2 times 3 is 6, and then 19 times 5. So 5 times 10 is 50, times 9 times 5 is 45. Put those together, we get 95. So we get 6 95ths, or 95th 6, right? So we're basically saying, okay, now what is the greatest number of guests Carly can serve, right? So let's see how many she can serve. What's going to be left? So we have 6 fits into 95, right? 6 fits into 95. And if we just want to do the regular math on that, we could do that like this, long division kind of style, right? So 6 fits into 9, 1 time 6, 6, 35. Bring that down. We know that 6 fits into 35. 5 times 6 is 30. And then we're left with 5, or 5/10. So 5/10, right? That's what's remaining. And so it said, what is the greatest number of guests that Carly can serve? And if she has those guests, right, she can give them equal amounts of 3/5 of a pint of ice cream. So there's going to be that 0.5 remaining. So it can't be 16, because that means that person won't get 3/5. They will only get 0.5, right? So we have to go down to 15. So the greatest number of guests that Carly can serve is 15 guests. And that answer is letter choice C. All right. And that is the longest video for the time that we've been doing these videos. But awesome, we're done. So anyway, man, that's it. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Remember, we do not have anything going on Monday. So don't look for me to upload anything. I'm going to send out an email to parents and everybody tomorrow. But yeah, man, have a blessed weekend. Keep doing your best. And remember that you're loved and needed. All right. Peace.